Okay, Common Core Algebra 2, we're going to look at Chapter 1, Section 3 today. So this is our third flipped lesson of the class, and this is going to be another quick reminder about how to solve linear equations. So there's lots of different types of equations. We're going to look at 4 examples and a quick reminder. 1 and 2 step equations, an equation where we have to combine like terms, and an equation where we have variables on both sides. So first thing to remember, that when we solve a linear equation, we're always going to perform the inverse operations to isolate the variable, or in other words, get the variable by itself. Now when we talk about inverse operations, that means things like addition and subtraction, or multiplication and division, or a new one that we could have is square rooting and taking something to the second power. Those are also inverses. Now these wouldn't be linear equations, but just keep in mind that sometimes when we have something squared, we're going to have to square root. So the other thing that we should keep in mind and probably write down, operations must be performed on both sides. So in our first example here, if I help remind you by drawing a separation down the equal sign, that's always where our separation is. We have a left side and a right side. I want to get rid of that minus 7 by doing the inverse operation of adding 7, and again on both sides. So we end up with 2x equals 19 because our minus 7 and our plus 7 canceled out. And then our inverse operation, since 2x is a type of multiplication, we are going to divide both sides by 2, and x would equal 9.5. And we get a decimal on that one. That's okay. Okay, so that is a type of two-step equation because it took 2 steps. Okay, here we're going to have a slightly more than 2-step. In this case, we need to do distribution first. So 3 times x and 3 times 3. And remember, distribution means multiply, so we'd end up with 3x plus the 3 times 3 is going to give us 9, and that equals 12. And then we do our inverse operations. So subtract 9 from both sides. That'll give us 3x on the left side equals 3. And then dividing both sides by 3, we get that x equals 1. Okay, so there was 2 quick types. We had a 2-step equation and then actually an equation we had to distribute. And the next 2 that we're going to look at, these look very similar in terms of we have x in more than one place. But here we need to remember that these are variables on both sides. And the other one, this one here, is going to be combine like terms because all the variables are on the same side. If I draw my separation here, all my variables are on the same side. If I draw my separation here, my variables are not on the same side. So starting with the variables on both sides, this tends to be the one where we have a few more mistakes. We need to get all our variables on one side. It doesn't matter which one we do. I am going to get rid of that 2x. And again, anything we do to one side, we have to do to both sides. So our 2x's will cancel out. Our 3x minus x is an x. We bring down the plus 8 equals, and then one mistake, we tend to only bring down that 12, but remember that negative sign goes with it. So it's actually a negative 12 there. Last step then to solve this one, because the x has no coefficient, there's a coefficient of 1. We're going to subtract 8 from both sides. And we end up with x equals a negative 20. And that would be that one. The combined like terms, since everything, or since our 2x's are on the same side, we can just say 5x minus 3x. Remember the symbol in front goes with it. So that would end up with 2x. I can bring down my plus 6, and that equals 16 over here. And then, just like our 2-step equation we just saw, we're going to do 2 steps. First one, subtracting 6 from both sides, and then dividing both sides by 2. And so we get x equals 5. Okay? So that would be our lesson on how to solve linear equations. Again, you guys have seen all that stuff before. It's just a real quick review. We're going to spend the next few days working on solving equations and then coming up with some equations to challenge our classmates with. All right, see you guys next time.